We're here with Don Thomas, who is here to talk about his experiences while he was a POW. Mr. Thomas, when were you a POW?
I was captured in May of 1942, the fall of Tragador.
Okay, where did they take you while you were a POW?
I was in, most of the time in the Philippines. I was in 9 different prison camps altogether. One in Formosa, which is Taiwan now, and 2 different ones in Japan. And I suppose I was on 9 different prison ships.
Okay. Is there any one experience that stands out that you remember or that you don't want to remember?
Yes, several, but one particularly the prison ships were probably my worst experience. And in '44, Japanese were trying to get all the prisoners out of the Philippines to Japan. We were really their slave labor, and at this time the Americans was trying to blockade Japan and keep out all shipping. So we lost many prisoners of war on prison ships that was sunk by the Americans. And my ship was a small one, and we were fortunate to get through.
What did you think of the ceremony that they had yesterday for the POWs? And do you think the people are starting to do enough for the POWs?
I was very impressed and very pleased. And I would like to take this time to thank the officials of Madison County and the American Legion and the VFW, and Kay Billiter for helping put this flag together. It had a great deal of meaning for me, and I'm sure it did for Carl, who was the speakers. And I think one thing that seems to have a great deal of meaning for me was to see the high school and the young children there, and to think that future generations will help realize the price we have to pay for freedom at times. I was very impressed.
We have footage of the POW flag. Do you know what the design was made and why they designed it that way? Because it's a really, I don't know, it's kind of a heart-touching deal, you know, the blackness of it and the figure of it.
I'm not sure what the official interpretation, but to me, the black represented the black of our freedom for the inhumane treatment we went through. And of course, I think there's some barbed wire on it running across the symbolic of our internment behind barbed wire. And there probably is a more official interpretation of it, but to me, that is the way I was interpreting it. And this was my first chance to get to see one that had a great deal of meaning. And I'm sure each day I go by and see the flag flying there, I will have a lot of flashbacks, and it'll probably take on more meaning for me.
What are your thoughts on the American hostage situation that's going on in the Middle East now, and how do you know how they feel?
Yes, that was my first thought, was that I can certainly understand some of the feelings these freed hostages have to go through. And I'll be glad when they're all freed, and if we have some missing in action still overseas that's not returned, it will be a great day when they can be returned. At times we have to pay a very big price for this freedom. And you probably caught the word when Carl used it, he just didn't say freedom, but freedom with responsibility. And I think you'll find most of the POWs will always add that word, that to be free is one thing, but to be free with responsibility to each other is very important. And I guess we'd like to see future generations think more strongly about this. And can I ask you a question? Sure. Today, what do you think is the greatest enemy to our freedom here in America right now?
I would say probably drugs, because it turns our minds against each other, I would guess, and
blocks out the responsibility.
Yeah.
Very good. That's a good start. And as I looked over the school children there, I have a great confidence in them that they'll probably treat our freedom differently down the road.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we need to cherish.
We often, I think, take it for granted, and until you lose it, you don't realize how that it is not always necessarily for granted. And I feel too our way of life, our emphasis on material things and money seems to be much more important than helping each other or being responsible to each other and for each other. I'd like to see that become a top priority in the next decade. And your generation is the one that can make it happen.
Are there any other POWs in Winterset that you talk to?
Yes. I believe at the present time we have three. Eddie Binge and Carl Hercock. They were both German POWs. And I am the third. I think at one time there was a fourth one, but I don't remember the man's name or if he's still around. I guess one thing that I thought of this morning as I went by the flag, I thought it's been almost 50 years since I was one of two first casualties at the start of World War II from Madison County. The fact that we were missing in action, we were considered a casualty at the time. And a Mr. Kinney from Winterset who was there who didn't make it back. And thinking that it's 50 years and now we finally are getting a symbol to recognize our I guess our sacrifices, and that has great meaning also.
Well, if there's nothing else that you'd like to say.
I think that is all I have at this time, and I hope that the flag will give more meaning and understanding to all our generations coming up.
Thank you.